Welcome back. You're tuned in to Editors Roundtable, and we're in conversation with Sandeep Tandon. Well, Sandeep, I wanted to ask you about the metals pack. There was a time when, I had my ear to the ground. What is Sandeep buying in metals? Because you all timed it perfectly. Whether it was the PSU metal stocks, still there are pockets where you'll still have some exposure. Yeah. So what is your view out there? The recent entrants, I think, that you've made, like Lloyd Metal, have done very well. So your view on metals, and do you think there are still select opportunities out there?
Okay. So I will summarize metals more from a global perspective. We believe that maybe for last 1 year we have been saying that leverage economy as a thesis is not going to play out. It's all about real economy, and obviously real economy, the real assets will play. So we are very constructive about metals from a longer term perspective, and I'm talking about next 2-3 decade perspective we are constructive. But from a very near-term perspective, obviously there are challenges. Okay, so we are not very negative on it, but we like to have some exposure. So we do have some amount of metal exposure, particularly ferrous metal exposure we have, because we believe India infrastructure story going to pick up. And despite challenges are there, and we are all hearing about anti-dumping duty coming on the in the ferrous space. So that could be one positive which can happen. Maybe this is around the corner. That's what we understand. Okay, and a lot of media article has been talking about. So if that happens, that will support it. But I think if somebody starts just looking at the DXY linkage, pure sentiments, I think that has broken long back. Okay.
So your weightage on metals has come, in your total.
Yeah, it has come down, but we still have some exposure, and I think it's a strategic bet. Appropriate time we'll increase it, but we have more increase our exposure towards oil companies, particularly we are more bullish on the crude space. Okay, that's the reason if you see last month portfolio also, you will see we have large exposure to our ONGC and Oil India in our portfolio, because we are constructive on the oil as a sector. We think oil, if I have to take a call, I think oil is heading higher.
So Sandeep, negative on autos, negative on IT, very selective on metals, which is one space where you're aggressively bullish on, and you'll feel, one you spoke about oil and gas, but otherwise, which is the space which
so obviously, I'm more bullish on the domestic economy, okay, given the uncertain world. Okay. So obviously, first choice is energy, which has played out very well. We still remain very constructive on the energy as a space. Second, I think one has to talk about is about the larger infra names, okay? Because despite knowing that CapEx cycle has not played out very well, government has not also spent up to that extent what is required, so there's a deficit there. But sooner or later it will pick up. So I think India large infra story should play out very well. Then as a defensive thing, we still believe pharma is a great story, okay? If I have to look at from a decadal perspective, I think what tech has done for India.
Pharma, you'll play the overseas, the US play?
Yes, I will play US play. Domestic also as well as the US play. That's the one area where I expect a lot of activity should pick up. It is something similar like 10 years back or 20 years back, or from 2000 onwards, if I talk about where tech was. I think pharma is in a similar situation. Oh. So it's a structured bull run story from a long-term perspective.
You briefly mentioned budget, which is close by. Any expectations? Or you think it'll be... anything on taxes, anything to boost consumption?
There is a real need to push for higher consumption?
See, I tell you, obviously there is a need for that, and I think every state government is doing it. So that's some people call it some sort of popular sort of thing, and that's the reason consumption stock, particularly FMC stocks, looks good to me. I don't expect anything dramatic on the budget, and the budget has lost its relevance, okay? Because around the year, you see policy announcements. So it's more of a psychological event rather than anything extreme which can come out, unless you find it something very negative or very positive, then you have any impact on the market. Otherwise, to large extent, I think it's a non-event.
Okay.
Every time we talk about it, but it turned out to be non-event.
We will talk about it this time also. We'll see.
What about high-end discretionary consumption, like high-end real estate or travel and tourism, the hospitality segment?
So high-end, yes, it has done extremely well. We are extremely bullish on hospitality as a space, whether you talk about hospitals or you talk about hotel as a space, because right from business or as well as the holidays point of view, it's picking up. I think that's the one area we are very gung-ho, where we seeing good amount of cash flow, and many companies are also getting listed. Now you'll see ITC getting listed. You look at last 1 year, at least 3 hospitality space company, and you have seen a lot of M&A activities building in the hospital space. So that's a space, if you ask me, one sector which we like is hotel and hospitality as a space. Real estate and all those things has played out quite well. So I'll prefer hotel and hospitality or hotel and hospital as a space over real estate within the higher end.
You know, Sandeep, you're bullish on crude oil prospects. Is there any other way of playing at some of these spike makers, you know, which will be, we are talking about pipelines, you know, Trump has been talking about drill, baby, drill. So, you know, is there any other way that you all could?
So I think pipes could be one company, particularly the US-centric, any companies exporting to US should be opportunity. And even Middle East also. Lot of capex has been announced, so that's the one area. And again, within domestic also, not from the crude perspective, but from the consumer water point of view, drinkable water think pipeline is also something. So there's a theme which is very constructive, but keep in mind, nothing is very cheap, you know.
Yeah.
So that aspect we have to keep in mind.
Right. Sandeep, one sector which has done really well in the last couple of years is EMS, the entire electronic manufacturing space. But everything seems to be quite expensive there. Is the story played out, or you still feel there is a lot of runway for the stocks to do well?
So yes, Ramesh, it's very difficult to pinpoint exact euphoria because you can pinpoint for the many largest sector, but it's a new thing which the history is also very limited. But if I just go by observation, I think is the fag end of this cycle also. Because extraordinary high. Everybody just wants to buy that.
Exactly.
Okay. Every strategist talks about EMS should be a thesis, it should be in a portfolio. These are very classic signs, you know.
Okay.
Okay, where one should be very cautious.
All right.
Well, that brings us to a, you know, it's curtains down now on Editors Roundtable. Sandeep, thank you very much
But it was a superb 20-minute
very
rapid fire
insightful.
from Sandeep.
Join more often,
Across sectors,
Sandeep.
we did a lot of
My life is quite bad.
Sandeep, stay. We have to wrap up the show.
Thank you very much for joining. Well, with that, we're going to say thank you. But stay with us. We'll be back with more news and updates on the other side. Goodbye.